Deep in the remote mountainous wilderness of Montana in the United States, we find this remarkable structure known as the Sage Wall. This imposing megalithic wonder is composed of massive polygonal granite stone blocks intricately stacked and aligned in a perfectly straight line that extends up to 275 feet in length, which is around 84 meters, although it's believed that it extends additionally underground. Its height reaches up to 25 feet or 8 meters, with the largest of the stone blocks weighing 91 tons. In fact, it is believed that the structure continues an additional 15 feet beneath the ground, making it around 40 feet tall if fully excavated. The wall's unique features, such as its straight lines and angular formations, set it apart from the natural geological formations commonly found in the region. The granite stone blocks appear as if they were cut, stacked, and pieced together like a puzzle, with each block interlocking with the next one. It's known that granite does not split into 90-degree consistent corners and angles, which made many researchers believe this could be some sort of prehistoric megalithic structure. The reason you've likely never come across or heard of the Sage Wall is due to its location on private land, rendering it virtually unknown to the scientific community. The landowners themselves, Christopher Borton and Linda Welsh, were unaware of the wall's presence for many years. Nestled on a mountainside, the wall was concealed by a dense canopy of fallen trees and thick foliage that had covered it for centuries, if not millennia. This natural camouflage made the wall nearly impossible to detect, especially since very few people had ever set foot in the area. The site of the Sage Wall was first discovered relatively recently. It came to light when the landowners decided to clear a portion of their property that had been heavily forested and covered with dense foliage for centuries. As they began clearing the fallen trees and thick underbrush on the side of the mountain, they stumbled upon the wall-like structure. This accidental discovery revealed the previously hidden and virtually unknown Sage Wall, prompting further investigation and interest from both the landowners and the scientific community. The wall's precise interlocking stones bore a striking resemblance to ancient polygonal masonry found in other parts of the world, such as the megalithic walls in Peru, Egypt, Turkey, Greece, Easter Island, Japan, and many other places around the globe. Does this mean that the Sage Wall of Montana is one of the many prehistoric megalithic sites destroyed thousands of years ago by an ancient cataclysm? Of course, most people dismiss the site as a natural formation. But how could this be a mere natural formation when it's clearly seen that the wall is perfectly straight-lined? We know that a common feature of the megalithic stone walls around the world is the mysterious knobs on the surface of the stones. All of the megalithic ancient sites around the world have these knobs, whether you're in Peru, Egypt, India, China, or elsewhere, and no one knows their real purpose. If the Sage Wall of Montana was indeed a man-made creation, would we not see the same knobs on the stone blocks? Interestingly, Michael Collins, the host of the remarkable YouTube channel Wandering Wolf, who documents many ancient sites around the world, visited the Sage Wall and was surprised to discover that, like in those other megalithic sites around the world, the Sage Wall also possessed numerous knobs in different sizes on different parts of the wall.
So walking up right on the trail, another what looks like nub.
How can these knobs be a natural formation? And what are the odds for the same type of knobs to be found on granite blocks, fitted in the same way as the other ancient megalithic walls on the globe? But the knobs weren't the only strange thing noted by Michael. He found that all across the area, there are large channels and additional walls, all made of tightly fitted and perfectly cut stone blocks, and all aligned in exact straight lines. It was as if this entire place was a prehistoric complex with various structures that have now collapsed and eroded. He also showcased stones that seemed to be artificially modified, like this one, for example, which resembles a granite piece from Karnak, Egypt, with a square cut, a channel, and a circle. Although the sage wall piece is extremely eroded and barely visible, it's clearly seen that these cuts and grooves are artificially made. And above Sage Wall, we can see these straight, smooth form chutes that flow down the side of a mountain. They appear like polished concrete and could have been used as water channels. There were also numerous stones with a variety of round cavities on their surface, known as cup marks. Ancient cup marks, also known as cupules, are among the oldest forms of rock art, dating back to prehistoric times, and can be found in various locations around the world. Their exact purpose is unknown, although the prevailing hypothesis is that they had practical uses, such as grinding or processing food and materials. In our documentary on the Kaimanawa Wall of New Zealand, which is another supposed prehistoric structure built by an unknown civilization, we showed you another interesting discovery of a stone with cup mark. And if you compare the cup marks found in Montana with the marks on this large 125-ton stone block from Sacsayhuaman, Peru, we can find another similarity between these ancient sites. Additionally, there are areas like this that look like someone carved out the rock. Does this seem like a natural formation? Michael Collins discovered numerous more anomalies on the site, which he documented in several videos. We left a link to his video on Sage Wall in the description below, so make sure to watch it and subscribe to his channel. As the popularity and mystery of the site became viral, in parts thanks to Michael, the owners of the land, Christopher Borton and Linda Welsh, organized a team of scientists, geologists, and archaeologists to study the site using ground-penetrating radar, magnetic susceptibility testing, soil sample testing, and future plans for the use of LiDAR. Although the studies are still underway, what was initially revealed was fascinating. First, they noticed that the granite blocks exhibit a remarkable level of magnetism, which is extremely unusual for granite. They showed how magnets can effectively stick to the vertical walls, demonstrating the high magnetic pull of the site. Additionally, the initial results of the ground-penetrating radar discovered another strange anomaly. It appears that the wall continues 15 feet below the ground, and there, right in front of the wall, there's a perfectly flat foundation, which is highly unlikely to be a natural formation. The site also caught the attention of Dr. Samir Osmanagic, the Bosnian-American scientist who is known for his discovery of the Bosnian Pyramid, which many consider the largest and oldest pyramid in the world. We have an entire documentary on the Bosnian Pyramid, so make sure to watch it for more details. Dr. Osman Agic traveled all the way to Montana to conduct research on the Sage Wall and concluded that the site is most likely man-made. What's more, he noticed that the megalithic wall is perfectly oriented to face the winter solstice. This was a very interesting discovery, as we know that many ancient megalithic sites are indeed oriented towards solstices, equinoxes, and other significant astronomical events.
In the summer solstice, it is southwest, winter northwest. And this is the orientation of this wall. Northwest, southeast, meaning it is oriented towards the winter solstice.
Dr. Samir Osmanagic also stated that the wall was probably built before the end of the last ice age, which is about 11,700 years ago. After determining that the weight of the heaviest stone at the site was 91 tons, He concluded that whoever built this structure must have possessed some kind of advanced technology lost in time. If we look at a pre-Younger Dryas glacial map of North America, the strategic significance of the Sage Wall becomes evident. It's located exactly on the migration route between Asia and North America, when during the Ice Age the sea levels were so low that they connected the continents by a land bridge. Scientists once theorized that the ancestors of today's Native Americans reached North America by walking across this land bridge and made their way southward by following passages in the ice. And if we look at this map showing the Cordilleran ice sheet and the Laurentide ice sheet that covered North America about 11,000 years ago, we see that the Sage Wall is located right between the two. This crucial position is flanked by 3 major rivers leading to 3 different oceans, making it an unparalleled hub for movement and resources. And it's now known that the area around Sage Wall is very rich in all kinds of different mineral deposits. In fact, the largest quartz crystal in Montana was also discovered here, and currently resides in the Mineral Museum at the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology in Butte. Is the Sage Wall's strategically vital location just a coincidence? Or was it an essential prehistoric site for early human occupation and activity? Even if one were to argue that the Sage Walls were formed naturally through volcanic activity, it is undeniable that their location is exceptionally convenient. If the wall is that ancient, that means that it withstood the cataclysmic events caused by the Younger Dryas impact, including the devastating Missoula floods, which were a series of fierce glacial outburst floods that raced across the landscape at speeds up to 80 miles per hour. Estimates suggest that the floodwaters reached heights of up to 400 feet, about 120 meters, as they surged through certain areas. It's a wonder that the Sage Wall even survived this impact. One theory suggests that the buildup of dirt and sediment along the backs of the wall was caused by the flood dirt that accumulated there. But if Sage Wall really is part of a massive prehistoric megastructure that served a vital role before the end of the last ice age, wouldn't we find more megalithic sites in the area? Well, take a look at this map, which shows the distribution of numerous strange sites and out-of-place artifacts near the Sage Wall. One of the most interesting sites in the vicinity is the Tyzer Dolmen. This supposed dolmen is located in a very remote and inaccessible area that doesn't even have cell phone coverage. The site was also extensively covered by Michael Collins from Wandering Wolf, as well as Dr. Samir Osmanagich. A dolmen is a type of single-chamber megalithic tomb, typically consisting of 2 or more vertical stones, called orthostats, supporting a large flat horizontal capstone, or table. These structures are prehistoric and are found in many parts of the world, with a high concentration in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Notable examples include the Poulnabrone Dolmen in Ireland and the Dolmen de Menga in Spain. The Tyzer Dolmen consists of large flat stones arranged in a table-like formation, similar to other dolmens found around the world. The structure features a massive horizontal capstone resting on 2 or more vertical stones, creating a small chamber beneath. The design of the Tyzer Dolmen closely resembles other ancient dolmens. Dr. Osmanagich noted that when granite stone breaks naturally, it typically fractures horizontally due to sedimentation processes. However, at the Tyzer Dolmen, the stones break vertically, which does not occur naturally. This discrepancy suggests that the stones were originally formed in horizontal layers. He believes that by observing the small breaks on the stones, we can determine that the gray granite stones were initially part of a horizontal sedimentation process before they were moved and reoriented 90 degrees to form this vertical structure. Additionally, A massive capstone has been precisely placed on top of these vertical stones. It is highly improbable that natural forces could have rolled this large block from a higher elevation and positioned it so accurately atop the vertical stones. The precise placement and orientation of these stones imply the intervention of intelligent hands rather than random natural occurrences. Michael Collins, on the other hand, noted that around the site, just like with the Sage Wall, he found numerous holes, strange linear marks on the stones, together with this large scoop mark. There were also a variety of knobs on the stones, indicating man-made design. In fact, it seemed that the entire structure was balanced upright by a knob at its base. Without this knob, the structure would likely collapse. If you visit MontanaMegaliths.com, created by researcher Julie Ryder, you can find a large collection of photographs of strange megalithic sites that many believe are not natural. We found numerous pictures of a variety of different domes, together with this picture of a large scoop mark on the granite. There were also numerous pictures of more supposed megalithic walls like the so-called pipestone walls. Although all of these sites look very symmetrical, they are most likely just natural formations formed by erosion. Nevertheless, they all look very fascinating. But the real question is the Sage Wall of Montana a natural formation or a prehistoric megastructure built thousands of years ago? With everything we shared so far supporting the theory that the structure is indeed man-made, we won't be objective without showing you the arguments for the opposing theory that the site is just a natural formation. Author, explorer, and filmmaker Timothy Alberino conducted an in-depth field analysis of Sage Wall and made some compelling arguments about why the structure is not man-made, but a geological formation. He stated that the crevices we see on the wall are natural as they start from the base and go all the way to the top of the wall following a natural path.
Take a look at this crevice. You'll see that there's natural fissuring in the rock. And this fissuring starts from here and it goes all the way up to the top of the wall. So we can clearly see that the fissuring is following a natural path.
His argument dismisses the man-made theory because if the wall was man-made, then the creators of the wall wouldn't align the blocks along a straight path. Instead, they would offset and stagger the blocks to interlock them, which provides the wall with structural integrity. Of course, there's the possibility that the fissuring occurred after the blocks were placed, meaning that it's possible for the wall to have originally consisted of larger, intact blocks, and the fissuring developed later as the wall began to erode. Additionally, unlike other megalithic sites around the world, there is a notable absence of cultural artifacts, such as tools, pottery, or other signs of human activity, in the vicinity of the Sage Wall. This lack of evidence for human intervention supports the argument that the wall is a natural formation rather than an ancient man-made structure. Geologists studying the Sage Wall propose that it was formed through natural volcanic and tectonic activities. The intense geological forces in the region could have caused the rock to crack and split, creating the appearance of a constructed wall. Over time, these natural processes would have continued to shape and define the wall's current structure. The natural origins theory was further supported by an in-depth analysis of the site by geologist Dr. Stuart Parker, who was featured in a video by the Incredible History Channel. There, Dr. Parker explained how the knobs we see on the rock are also formed naturally. This process occurs when softer parts of the rock erode faster than harder sections, leaving behind the more resistant material as protruding knobs. In conclusion, we can't confirm that the Sage Wall in Montana is a man-made construction, but at the same time, we can't deny it with full certainty also. Whatever the case, what's undeniable is that this gigantic site in the middle of nowhere is a remarkable place to visit. And if you want to visit it for yourself, you can reach out to sagemountain.org and book your visit to the site. We'll leave a link in the description below. Although we discuss numerous prehistoric megastructures on our channel, the ancient ruins of Baalbek in modern-day Lebanon might be the most compelling evidence of an advanced ancient civilization missing from our history books. This monumental complex, with its immense megalithic stones, some weighing over 1,000 tons, defies any explanation through the lens of conventional archaeology. Baalbek is situated in northeastern Lebanon, approximately 60 miles from Beirut, making it a somewhat challenging destination to reach in present times. Perched 3,000 feet atop a sacred hill in the fertile Bekaa Valley, long before the Romans conquered the area and erected their monumental Temple of Jupiter, and even before the Phoenicians built a temple to the god Baal, Baalbek was home to the largest stone block construction ever discovered in the world. The mainstream narrative about Baalbek's history is one of Roman ingenuity. The Temple of Jupiter, one of the largest temples in the Roman Empire, still stands as a testament to the power and reach of Roman architecture. However, beneath the Roman construction lies a series of enormous megalithic stones known as the trilithons, which form part of the foundation of the temple complex. These trilithons each measure over 19 meters, 62 feet in length, 4.2 meters, 14 feet in height, and 3.6 meters, 12 feet in thickness, and weigh approximately 900 metric tons, making them one of the largest stones ever moved, lifted, and stacked in human history. To put this into perspective, each stone is roughly 36 times the weight of the stones used to construct Stonehenge, and approximately 10 times the weight of the largest stones used in the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Despite their immense size, these stones were somehow transported from a quarry located over half a mile away and raised to a height of 30 feet or 9 meters, on top of these smaller 400-ton blocks to form part of the foundation of the Heliopolis complex, upon which the Temple of Jupiter was later built. The precision with which these stones were cut and aligned is extraordinary, as they fit together almost seamlessly, with gaps so narrow that not even a piece of paper can fit between them. Unlike typical Roman construction, which focused on grandeur and aesthetics in visible structures, the trilithons were not designed to be seen. They were buried within the foundation, hidden from view, and seem to have been laid out primarily for structural purposes. This raises the question of why a civilization would go to such lengths to move and position these massive stones only to bury them. There isn't any historical documentation from the Romans detailing how they achieved such an architectural feat. The Romans, renowned for their meticulous record-keeping, documented nearly every major construction project they undertook. Yet there is no Roman account explaining the process of moving these immense stones or how they were incorporated into the foundation of the Temple of Jupiter. Furthermore, the different construction methods evident at Baalbek, ranging from the finely crafted megalithic stones at the base to the more rudimentary stonework of the Roman structures, indicate that the site may have gone through multiple phases of development, with the earlier phases being of a higher technological standard. Moreover, according to historians, the largest Roman cranes could only lift 60 metric tons, making it highly improbable that they moved stones weighing 900 tons or more. Additionally, the Romans used to drill Lewis holes in the stones to be able to lift them with their cranes. However, the trilithon stones do not seem to contain any Lewis holes. But if no known Roman engineering technique explains how these stones were moved or positioned with such precision, who built Baalbek's original foundation? The trilithons show evidence of wind and sand erosion that is not seen in the Roman construction, suggesting they could have predated the Romans for thousands of years, with some researchers like Graham Hancock believing the trilithons are around 12,000 years old, predating Roman construction by around 10,000 years. This is not a simple guesswork, as there are archaeological signs of continuous habitation at the site as far back as 9000 BCE. This means that whoever the actual builders were, they are entirely unknown to us and our established historical records. But the trilithon stones are just the beginning. On this side of the Temple of Jupiter, there's another giant megalithic work with this enormous block that weighs around 800 tons. Just compare the size of the block to the tourist nearby. Right next to it is the South Megalithic Wall, where there are numerous such blocks with flat surfaces. Look at the perfect fitting between them. Some of the fittings are even at an angle, making the megalithic wall even more impressive and sophisticated. This is clearly the work of a far superior civilization than the Romans, Greeks, or Phoenicians. Even a child can see the clear difference between the superior megalithic construction at the foundation and the inferior Roman work built on top. If we look closer at the surface of the giant stone blocks, we can see these strange parallel scratches. They can be seen in different parts of the complex on various megalithic stone blocks. We can also see them on the trilithon stones themselves. These scratch marks have lengths of around 3 meters or 10 feet and are perfectly parallel. This means they could not have been made with primitive tools. Moreover, the marks look more like some kind of machine marks. If you've watched our documentaries before, you'll probably notice that these marks are similar, if not identical, to the marks left on other prehistoric megalithic sites, such as the Yangshan Quarry in China, which consists of this gargantuan megalithic block estimated to weigh 16,000 tons. As you can see, the Yangshan Quarry in China has the exact same tool marks that are seen on the massive stones at Baalbek. Similarly, in the ancient city of Petra in Jordan, tool marks that closely resemble those on the Yangshan blocks have also been identified. The marks can be seen in the prehistoric parts of Petra, which were created thousands of years before the Nabatean kingdom settled the city in the 4th century BC. Shockingly, comparisons with modern machinery reveal striking similarities in the striations produced by contemporary mining equipment, which suggests a level of sophistication in ancient tooling methods that parallels modern technology. Does this mean that the prehistoric civilization that built all of these gigantic megalithic sites had some kind of advanced technology, similar to our modern machinery and heavy equipment? An independent alternative Russian scientific research center called LAH, meaning Laboratory of Alternative History, studied the Baalbek megalithic complex in detail and discovered numerous tiny machine marks on various parts of the structure. You can visit their website to see for yourself, and if you don't know Russian, you can auto-translate the site. They showed the remarkable precision of the South Megalithic Wall of Baalbek. and photographed the perfect fitting of the blocks, where we can see that the marks near the edges are even more unusual than those we discussed. They look so precise and miniature that they would be nearly impossible to make with rough tools. Even more astonishing are the edges themselves. If we zoom closer to the edges, we can see there's a miniature line going all along the boundary between the surface where the blocks meet and the bevel. This thickness of this line is less than 1/3 of a millimeter thin. It's unknown what kind of tool or machine made this line, but creating such precise and thin line is impossible with primitive tools. At the edges of the blocks, there is a chamfer composed of multiple phases, and the shape of the chamfer is identical on both blocks. The facets have been crafted with near jewelry precision, with some areas even polished. The quality and accuracy of the work are evident in this notch, which is precise down to a fraction of a millimeter. And take a look at this giant megalithic wall made of massive 800-ton blocks. Judging by the darkening on the surfaces of these blocks, it's clear that they are far more ancient than the Roman construction. Once again, we see remarkable precision in the fittings between the blocks. In fact, in some places, the joints are so closely fitted that you can barely see where the fitting is located. It's unknown how deeper underground this wall continues, as thousands of years ago, the ground level was much lower. This makes you wonder how the builders were able to transport, lift, and precisely stack these giant 800-ton blocks so perfectly at such a height. And in the entirety of the Baalbek complex, there are at least 40 such stones, all weighing around 800 to 1,000 tons. Many others may exist, but archaeological excavations have thus far not dug beneath all the sections of the complex. Right next to the Temple of Jupiter is the Temple of Bacchus. Once again, we can see gigantic stone blocks at the foundation, stones weighing 800 tons fitted together with absolute perfection, where not even a razor blade can fit between the gaps, both vertical and horizontal. If you're not right in front of the structure, you probably won't even spot the fittings. But the gigantic stone blocks aren't the only prehistoric remains in Baalbek. If you visit the temples of Baalbek, the first thing that will catch your eye will probably be the large columns, especially those that adorn the Temple of Jupiter, which are the largest stone columns ever constructed in classical history. However, these columns are not prehistoric, but the work of the Romans. These massive columns, standing at 65 feet or 20 meters in height, were constructed using limestone, which was quarried from nearby sources. But they weren't built as a whole, but were instead built in sections called drums, with each drum carefully carved and fitted together to form a seamless column. While the exact weight of each drum can vary depending on the specific dimensions, it's estimated that an individual drum weighs approximately 60 metric tons, which is around the maximum capacity of weight the Romans were able to lift with their cranes. One of the key techniques the Romans used to lift and connect the drums into the columns was the so-called Empoleon holes, which are the cavities drilled into the center of each drum segment. These holes were used not only to align the drums, but also to provide a key point of attachment for lifting devices. The Romans often used Lewis irons, which were special metal clamps designed to fit into holes or grooves in the stone. In the case of the drums, the Empoleon holes acted as convenient insertion points for these lifting clamps, which were connected to the crane, allowing the workers to carefully raise the stone into the air. The entire process of the column construction represents some of the most impressive examples of Roman engineering. But the Roman columns aren't the only columns at Baalbek. Archaeologists were shocked when they found a large portion of columns that were far more ancient, and the majority of them were mostly destroyed. The reason these columns shocked archaeologists was that, unlike the Roman columns, they were not made of the limestone found nearby, but of rose granite, a much harder material. Moreover, they were not made by different drums connected with each other, but were one single structure. These 200 rose granite columns were quarried from Aswan, Egypt, over 700 miles away. This is the same quarry that supplied the famous rose granite blocks used in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Moving such heavy stones, each weighing up to 80 tons, from Aswan to Giza over 500 miles, is an astonishing task. But transporting similar multi-ton granite columns to Baalbek posed an even greater challenge. These granite columns didn't just travel down the Nile River and across relatively flat lands. They had to be transported over the Lebanon Mountains, which average around 2,500 meters or 8,200 feet in elevation. The sheer difficulty of transporting these colossal stone columns across such a mountainous landscape is staggering. This raises significant questions about how and why ancient builders went to such extreme lengths to bring these columns to Baalbek. The transportation over this challenging terrain would have required technology or methods far beyond what we typically attribute to ancient civilizations. But that's not the most impressive part. We know that granite is one of the hardest materials on Earth, and the only way to shape granite is with the use of tools with diamond tips. However, such tools were not in use until the late 19th century. Moreover, the columns are polished to an incredibly smooth and perfectly round finish, with the transition between the curved and flat surfaces being remarkably precise. It's highly improbable that this level of precision could have been achieved using hand tools alone. Even the most skilled sculptor would likely make minor errors, resulting in dips or bumps. Yet after thousands of years, there are no visible imperfections. The remaining edge is still sharp, providing compelling evidence that suggests the possible use of ancient machining technology. Like we mentioned, the majority of the pink granite columns are shattered to pieces along with numerous other stone pieces. In fact, large parts of the complex are filled with scattered stone remains. It's as if some kind of ferocious cataclysmic event occurred at the site. What kind of power could shatter large granite like that? If we examine the stone ruins scattered around the site, we find that many of them have strange patterns and what look like modern machine marks. Was this made by primitive tools? Author and researcher Brien Foerster, who visited the site dozens of times to examine its prehistoric ruins, wrote an entire book dedicated to the advanced megalithic work on the site, titled Baalbek, Lebanon, Megaliths of the Gods. In it, he talked about the dozens of strange marks and cuts on the pink granite pieces. Most shockingly, he noted that there are numerous traces of iron oxidization on the stones, meaning they were most likely cut with some kind of machine. Brien Foerster has numerous videos from his trips to Baalbek, together with lectures on the megalithic work there, so make sure to visit his channel for more in-depth research. Our documentary on the prehistoric megastructures at Baalbek would not be complete without talking about the site with the most shocking and paradigm-shifting discoveries, the Baalbek Quarry. This limestone quarry, located about a mile from the main temple complex, is the place from which the majority of the giant stone blocks at Baalbek were extracted, including the massive trilithon stones. However, the quarry also houses unfinished monoliths, which are even more fascinating, as they are bigger than the trilithon stones. One of the earliest and most famous discoveries in the Baalbek quarry is the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. This monolith, named after a local legend, is approximately 68 feet long, 14 feet high, and 14 feet wide, weighing over 1,200 tons. This stone lays at a raised angle with the lowest part of its base still attached to the quarry rock as though it were almost ready to be cut free and transported to its presumed location. Its immense size raises questions about how the ancients intended to transport and use it. Right below the stone block, we once again see the strange striation marks seen in the other megalithic stones, marks which many believe are machine marks. At Jungfrau Park in Interlaken, Switzerland, there's an intriguing model that demonstrates the number of modern cranes needed to lift the stone of the pregnant woman. Even if we assume this prehistoric civilization had the same crane technology as we have today, there's still not enough space for all the required cranes to be placed there. And even if they lift the block, how will they transport it to the temple? Initially, a large part of the monolith was buried underground, but after a long process of excavation, in 2014, a team from the German Archaeological Institute led by Jeanine Abdul Masih of the Lebanese University made an ever more shocking discovery. It was revealed that next to the stone of the pregnant woman underneath, there's an even more enormous monolith, which weighs 1,650 tons. This stone became known as the Forgotten Stone, and as of today, this is the largest stone block ever quarried in the world. In this aerial photo, you can compare the Forgotten Stone to the stone of the pregnant woman. The size difference is considerable. Considering the stone block was discovered just 10 years ago, who knows how deep the quarry goes and what else will be discovered in the future? Imagine what other giant prehistoric megaliths are out there, buried beneath the ground. The reason these stones remain an enduring mystery to modern scientists, including engineers and archaeologists, is that the techniques used for quarrying, transporting, and precisely positioning them are beyond the capabilities of any known ancient or contemporary builders. The path to Baalbek is uphill, traversing rough and winding terrain, and there is no evidence that a flat surface for hauling was ever constructed in ancient times. Furthermore, once the massive blocks reach the site, the challenge of how they were lifted and placed with such precision arises. Even if we assume the ancients could have used large pulley systems, the arrangement and positioning of the stones offer no feasible location where such an apparatus could have been installed. The very fact that the earth swelled the entire quarry proves that the site could be tens of thousands of years ago, placing it in the pre-Diluvian era. This could also explain the sudden and abrupt abandonment of the quarry. A cataclysmic event, whether an earthquake, flood, or some other natural disaster, could have forced the builders to halt their work unexpectedly, leaving these colossal stones unfinished and in place. The Baalbek quarry is not just home to massive monoliths. It also contains caves, smaller quarried stones, and a series of enigmatic structures referred to as the Witnesses, which all add to the complexity of the site. These standing stones are different from the horizontally cut blocks in that they stand vertically, almost like sentinels guarding the quarry. The name Witnesses implies that they served as markers or indicators, perhaps denoting the significance of the quarry or the completion of specific quarrying stages. The purpose of these monoliths is still debated, with some suggesting they could have been part of an ancient megalithic marker system, similar to other standing stones around the world, like those found at Stonehenge or Karnak in France. Some researchers propose that the Witnesses may have had ritual significance or marked important celestial alignments, as ancient builders often incorporated astronomical features into their monuments. A lesser-known site is a second quarry nearby, just across the street, which is barely excavated. There, we find another gigantic stone monolith known as the Stone of the South. The Stone of the South surpasses the Stone of the Pregnant Woman in size, with an estimated weight of 1,300 tons. Its upper part was most likely still visible during the time of the Romans, and for this reason we see numerous small extractions on its surface. Since the Romans were unable to move and use this giant monolith, they simply cut pieces from it for their constructions. Many believe this quarry is even bigger than the previous one we discussed, yet as of today, it remains unexcavated with constant rubbish and construction garbage being thrown over it. Who knows what other gigantic monoliths could be found buried beneath it? In conclusion, the prehistoric megalithic work at Baalbek remains one of the most awe-inspiring evidence of an advanced prehistoric civilization that possessed technology far superior to any known ancient civilization. There are many theories, myths, and legends surrounding the site. Ancient legends say that Baalbek is the most ancient building in the world and was built by Cain, the son of Adam, 133 years after the creation, with the help of Nephilim giants who were punished for their iniquities by the Great Flood. The Baalbek stones and quarry continue to fascinate and mystify people around the world. Whether viewed through the lens of myth, speculative history, or scholarly research, the legends surrounding Baalbek reflect humanity's enduring curiosity about its ancient past and the seemingly inexplicable achievements of prehistoric civilizations. Ollantaytambo is a gigantic complex located in the Sacred Valley of the Incas northwest of the city of Cusco and possesses one of the most precise megalithic polygonal masonry in the world. One of the most famous structures in Ollantaytambo is the Temple of the Sun. There, we can find remarkable stonework, which includes large slabs of pink granite, intricately carved and precisely aligned. The stone blocks weigh between 50 and 70 tons, and they are fitted together with such precision that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them. This precision, along with the scale and the transportation of these stone blocks, indicates a highly advanced level of technological and engineering sophistication that was not yet available to the Incas. One of the stones has a remarkably precise pattern that resembles a step pyramid. This is actually a Chacana cross, an ancient Andean symbol that can be seen on various megalithic sites all across South America. The oldest Chacana representation was found in Bolivia at the archaeological site of Tiwanaku. And if you look closer at the surface of the other blocks at the Temple of the Sun, you can notice that although they are exceptionally smooth, there are these scoop marks on their surface. This led many to believe that the creators of these structures had some kind of lost technology that allowed them to soften the hard pink granite and manipulate it with ease. We can see the same thing in various other places in the world, including Stonehenge and the Aswan Quarry in Egypt. In a drawing of the 6 monoliths made in 1843 by the German painter Johann Moritz Rugendas, we can see that there used to be more stones on the top of the structures, which are now missing. And who knows what the complete structure looked like tens of thousands of years ago when it was initially created. Between the 6 massive monoliths, there are smaller stones intricately fitted together. These stones vary in size and shape, but are precisely cut to interlock tightly with the monoliths, creating a seamless wall that is indestructible even by the numerous earthquakes that are common in this area. We can also see various knobs on the stones, a feature which is also observed all across the world from China and Japan to Egypt, almost as if all of these sites were built by the same builders. And just as we observe the precise fittings with no gaps, if we go behind the structure, we can see inferior stonework, which looks almost primitive compared to the main wall. Many researchers believe that the inferior stonework is the actual work of the Inca civilization, which found this prehistoric site and built upon it. If we observe the entire structure from above, we can clearly see that in the distant past, this was some sort of gigantic building that served an important purpose. The Inca people tried to repair as much as they could from the old construction, but their methods were simply not as advanced. This is why we can see many gigantic stone blocks scattered around the site, as if the complex was demolished by some cataclysmic event that destroyed and dispersed most of the structures. Some of the blocks are even half buried. The Inca never managed to move these blocks, which had been left there for thousands of years. Some of these multi-ton granite blocks have gigantic knobs, and between them, we can see more Inca repair work. Many of the blocks are perfectly rectangular, with straight 90-degree edges and smooth surfaces. Another key site of the complex is the Gateway of the Gods. This section also predates the Inca by thousands of years. Once again, we see massive, perfectly smooth granite blocks with knobs on them. The stones used are expertly cut and fit together. On the top side of the gateway, we can see the inferior Inca repairs made of small, rough stones and clay mortar, which have nothing in common with the precision of the old megaliths. The gateway continues into a wall on one side, which is truly astonishing and fits together like a puzzle. There are numerous perfectly parallel cavities on the wall, all with the exact same size and dimension. At some parts of the polygonal wall where there are blocks missing, we once again see crude Inca repairs. The precision with which these blocks are cut and assembled suggests the use of sophisticated technology and methods that were not available to the Inca even at its peak. Does this mean that the ancients had advanced knowledge, potentially even some sort of machinery? Many researchers speculate that the prehistoric megalithic builders possessed the capability to heat and melt stone, allowing them to mold it into the precise shapes needed, resulting in the perfect fitting of the blocks. Just take a look at this fitting and the precision it showcases. In the distant past, there was most likely a second wall on the other side, as evidenced by the foundational pieces and the three-dimensional interlocking of the stones. We can see dozens of scattered stone blocks on the ground, with many more buried. On some of the blocks, there are unusual keystone cuts visible, likely designed to secure the blocks together using a type of clasp. This is another ancient megalithic feature that can be seen all across the world. If you look closer at the cut, you can see clear core drill hole marks. What kind of drilling technology could leave such marks on pink granite? On another stone, we see an incredibly precise saw cut going through it. It appears that something sliced the stone, making a perfectly flat surface and then stopping. The thickness seems very narrow. To cut granite in such a precise way, you would need a material harder than granite such as diamond. And even then, such narrow cut seems impossible. The Inca had only bronze chisels and stone hammers, so who managed to create this precise laser-like cut on this stone? Observing from above, we can see this half-buried giant granite which has numerous machine marks on it. Although the stone is highly eroded, the clean marks left on it can be seen with ease. It's unknown what kind of tool or machine left these traces on the granite or what their purpose is. On the top of the rock, there are additional carvings that look perfectly rectangular and square, with precise 90-degree angles. Considering such a large part of this rock is underground, just imagine how many more clues could be buried beneath the earth. At the entrance of Ollantay Tambo, numerous stone blocks are displayed. All of them are clearly artificially modified, showcasing precise cuts and shapings, while others look like they were somehow melted and deformed. Look at the precise angles of this giant granite block. Who knows where was its original location and to what kind of construction it once fitted? And look at this rectangular block, which has numerous scoop marks on it, almost like it was softened somehow and reshaped. What kind of technology can modify stone like that? Take a look at this incredible trapezoidal fountain and the precise carvings it showcases. The carvings are on 3 levels, and each level has perfect 90-degree angles and smooth surfaces. These cuts look very similar to those we've seen in sites like Pumapunku in Bolivia. On the bottom 2 sides of the fountain, there are the remains of 2 knobs which are now broken. Many noted that the surface of the granite used for the creation of the fountains exhibits piezoelectric properties, and by swiftly running your finger along the edge, you can influence the flow of the water. There are many demonstrations from visitors who manage to even completely stop the flow of the water using just this method. One of the best examples of advanced ancient technology can be seen on the rock walls of Ollantay Tambo. If we examine the existing andesite rock on the site, we can see that it was cut and altered in numerous places. Here we see that large parts of the rock have been extracted, leaving a remarkably smooth surface and, strangely, large knobs like those found on the granite stones. The material was removed with such precision that we hardly find scratches. Considering the rock is made of andesite, an extremely strong and hard material, the work we see is incredible. Additional knobs can be seen in higher sections of the rock, also accompanied by smooth and precise cuts. Next to these knobs are also cavities carved into the wall. And take a look at these strange marks left on the stone. What kind of technology could leave such marks? Similar channel marks can be found on other sections of the site as well. Here in the distance, we can see 3 niches, which some believe were traces of some sort of giant escalator. At the western edge of Ollantay Tambo, we find that the ancient builders fit stones into the bedrock itself with astonishing accuracy and created recesses of unknown function. In this particular location, we can see that the ancients left this strange yet extremely precise crisscross pattern. These patterns, according to many, seem as if they were left behind by some sort of machinery after the slabs were removed. The grid is perfectly symmetrical and the channels are uniform, measuring mere millimeters. And here we see another interesting pattern. What kind of technology could have left behind such patterns thousands of years ago? Some have even ventured out and said that these fascinating crisscross patterns are, in fact, marks that could have been created by some sort of laser-like apparatus or saw machine, pointing to the possibility that the prehistoric builders had in their possession long-lost technology that allowed them to quarry with ease massive andesite and granite blocks. If we examine the so-called Wall of the Living Rock, we can see huge rectangular sections of the stone removed from the mountain with such accuracy that we can't find any scratch on the surface. What's even stranger is that the corners are not sharp as you would expect if you chip the rock, but are actually smooth, which makes it even harder to explain how this was done. The smoothness of the andesite makes many to believe that some sort of vitrification process was used. According to the official narrative, the mountains were used as quarries, but several intriguing questions arise from this. Firstly, the cut marks are perfectly square, which is surprising. One might expect the stone to be knocked out of the rock face first and then squared as modern stone cutters would do, which is not the case here. And on many parts of the rock, we see knobs, which suggests this was something more than a quarry. Secondly, the surfaces of the cuts are glassy smooth, not rough as one would anticipate from sawn or chiseled surfaces. Another question concerns the height at which these stones were cut. Why were the rocks cut from places that are sometimes 130 feet above the valley floor? How were they brought down? Although there are some stairways cut into the rock face that allow people to walk up to the quarry site, there are no signs of ramps or skid tracks that could have been used to transport the megaliths. If the stones had simply been dropped to the valley floor, they would have shattered. Lastly, how were these stones transported from one side of the valley to the other? The quarry site is miles away from locations like the Sun Temple. There is no evidence of any roads in the valley that could have been used to transport such massive loads. Additionally, on many parts of the rock, we see smooth channels which probably had running water in ancient times. With everything we have shown you so far, do you really believe all of these traces of advanced technology, the precise megastructures, and everything else on the site are the work of a primitive civilization that used stone hammers and bronze chisels? Or is it possible that Ollantaytambo, along with other ancient sites around the world, holds evidence of a far more advanced civilization that existed long before the Incas? The precise megalithic structures, advanced stone-cutting techniques, and the mysterious transportation of massive blocks suggest knowledge and technology far beyond what the Inca civilization is known to have possessed. The presence of smooth, glassy surfaces and perfect cuts in hard stone materials like granite, which are incredibly difficult to work with even using modern tools, raises significant questions about the methods used by the ancient builders. Moreover, the geographic challenges of transporting these enormous stones from quarries high in the mountains, across rivers, and up to the construction sites without visible signs of roads or ramps further complicate our understanding. How could a civilization lacking advanced machinery achieve such feats? The various repairs and modifications made by the Incas, which appear primitive in comparison to the original constructions, indicate that they inherited and repurposed these sites rather than creating them from scratch. Despite that, the official historical narrative of Ollantaytambo attributes its construction primarily to the Inca civilization, specifically during the reign of Emperor Pachacuti in the 15th century AD. The site is thought to have served as a fortress, protecting the sacred valley from invaders, and as an agricultural hub, utilizing its terraced fields to produce food for the Inca Empire. When we call the works of the Inca civilization primitive, what we mean is that they are primitive compared to the advanced megalithic builders of old. We must remember that, for their time, the Inca were incredibly sophisticated. The Inca civilization, which thrived from the early 15th century until the Spanish conquest in the 16th century, demonstrated remarkable achievements in architecture, agriculture, and engineering. One of the most impressive aspects of Inca ingenuity is the agricultural terraces they built on Ollantaytambo. These terraces, known as andén, were constructed by creating flat platforms into the steep Andean mountainsides, creating arable land where none previously existed. The terraces were built with retaining walls made of carefully fitted small, rough stones and clay mortar, which provided stability and prevented landslides. Each terrace had a complex irrigation system that included channels and aqueducts to direct water from mountain streams to the crops. The Inca ingeniously designed these systems to ensure that water flowed evenly across all the terraces, preventing waterlogging and drought conditions. This careful water management was essential in the high-altitude environment where the climate could be harsh and unpredictable. The terraces look so massive that some people even call them staircases for giants, which, of course, is not true. The Inca built numerous storehouses, or colques, on the hillsides around Ollantaytambo. These structures were used to store surplus food, such as maize, potatoes, and quinoa, which were crucial for sustaining the population during times of shortage. On the opposite side of the town, the Inca constructed several structures on Temple Hill, also known as Pinca Luna. These include additional storehouses and possibly ceremonial buildings. The location offered strategic views of the valley and the main ceremonial center, reinforcing the site's importance. In summary, the Inca contributions to Ollantaytambo proves that they had an incredible architectural prowess, advanced agricultural techniques, and sophisticated urban planning. Still, comparing the Inca work with the megalithic prehistoric work reveals a stark contrast in technological capabilities and construction techniques. To this day, it is unknown who these old builders were and what the purpose of their megalithic constructions was. It's unknown how old they are, but many believe they are at least 12,000 years old, if not older. This means that the site was most likely built by an advanced civilization that disappeared after the cataclysms caused by the Younger Dryas event. Whether the truth lies buried beneath the earth or hidden in the intricate stonework, Ollantaytambo remains one of the most remarkable ancient sites on our planet. Located in the Kansai region near the center of Japan's main island, we can find the Osaka Castle, which is a 16th century iconic Japanese landmark. But what's really incredible is the foundation on which this castle was built. Osaka Castle was built on a prehistoric foundation of gigantic polygonal blocks, tightly fitted together without any gaps. This mega-platform that predates the castle itself looks very similar to the ancient stonework found in Peru, Bolivia, and Egypt. This architectural similarity provides intriguing clues to a possible pre-Diluvian connection between Japan and the advanced prehistoric civilizations scattered around the globe. Such polygonal and cyclopean styles are observed not only in Japan, Peru, Bolivia, and Egypt, but also in distant locales like Easter Island. What might this widespread distribution of a distinct architectural style signify? Could this be evidence of a once global advanced civilization? What's most shocking is that one of these stones weighs approximately 800 tons. This gigantic stone block is known as the octopus stone, also referred to as the drum stone. Its exact origins are still a mystery, and historians still can't fathom how an ancient civilization was able to quarry and transport such gigantic stones without the use of advanced technology. The stone looks similar to the gigantic Baalbek stones found in Lebanon, which are also a historical mystery. We have to consider that even today, with our modern technology, we won't be able to lift and transport the so-called octopus stone. That begs the question, what kind of technologies did this lost prehistoric civilization possess to be able to accomplish this Herculean task? Additionally, there are stones weighing more than 100 tons in different parts of the site, all stacked precisely with minimal gaps. If we look closely at the stone wall, We can see signs of significant weathering on the surface of the blocks, which suggests that this stone foundation could be extremely old. This observation is particularly compelling given the polygonal style's efficacy in seismic zones. This construction technique, where stones interlock tightly without mortar, provides exceptional stability during earthquakes, a frequent threat in this region. This durability might imply that the castle's foundations have endured for thousands of years, withstanding the harshest earthquakes in Japanese history. Despite numerous reconstructions due to warfare, natural disasters, and other devastations, the core ancient structures, particularly the megalithic stones, have likely remained largely unshifted, underscoring the ancient technique's effectiveness. This resilience speaks volumes about the ancient architect's skill and foresight. Moreover, another peculiar feature observed on some of the stones is the signs of vitrification, which suggests that they were exposed to extremely high temperatures, possibly from a cataclysmic event. This detail leads to speculation about their ancient origins and whether these stones could have witnessed global cataclysmic events, such as those posited by the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, which theorizes that a comet impact devastated early advanced civilizations. This means that these stones could have been constructed more than 12,000 years ago. Therefore, the question arises, could Osaka Castle's foundations be relics of an ancient, technologically advanced civilization that existed long before our current understanding of history? The evidence suggests a possibility that could fundamentally alter our perception of ancient human achievements. We can see similar megastructures in the Edo Castle in the heart of Tokyo. There are numerous precisely cut stones fitted together without the use of mortar. The remnants of these walls can still be seen around the Imperial Palace, which stands on the former grounds of Edo Castle. Undoubtedly, all of these gigantic structures were built by the same lost civilization and were later built upon by later cultures. If we compare the 16th century Japanese wall construction methods to the perfectly precise stone walls of old, we can see the difference. The Japanese used a more primitive technique known as burdock piling. This method of building stone walls involves fitting large rocks together with cracks filled with pebbles and smaller stones. These walls are uniquely sloped, creating ovate shapes that resemble the blossoms of Japanese burdock plants, hence the technique's name. Although this was still a very sophisticated construction method, as it had greater stability than regular brick walls with mortar and allowed the stones to move slightly during earthquakes without causing significant damage, it is no match to the more ancient polygonal construction method, where the stone blocks were not only significantly larger, but were also fitted much more precisely. We can easily speculate that the medieval people of Japan were capable of building megalithic structures. However, the Japanese medieval people documented and recorded their buildings as well as the constructive processes, but we find no mentions about the megalithic architecture anywhere. Remarkably, on some megalithic stoneworks, like on the Nakano-mon stone wall, we can find metal clamps embedded in the blocks. This is an incredible correlation with other megalithic sites across the world, all of which possess the exact same feature. But there are even more structures that correlate with prehistoric civilizations on the other side of the world. Maliabad Fort is situated in the Karnataka region of central India, a region rich with history and adorned with numerous historical sites. The fort, officially dated to the 13th century, is a sprawling megalithic complex that captures the imagination not just with its scale but also with its construction techniques. The structure is renowned for its towering walls that stretch for 5 kilometers, 3.5 miles, and rise to about 30 feet, almost 10 meters, dominating the landscape with an imposing presence. This site is not just a fort, it's an exhibition of exquisite craftsmanship, featuring life-size stone elephants carved from white granite and a significant Shiva temple, complete with a bull statue and a lingam made of black granite. However, there's something undeniably strange and compelling about Maliabad Fort that goes beyond conventional historical understanding. There are some distinctive features of its construction that suggest it may belong to a much earlier era, possibly predating known civilizations. This theory is anchored in several compelling architectural elements observed at the site. One of the most striking aspects of Maliabad Fort is its polygonal wall construction. These walls, made of cyclopean blocks similar to those found in ancient structures in Peru, such as those at Sacsayhuaman, suggest a level of stonework sophistication that is often attributed to advanced ancient civilizations. The precise fitting of such immense stone blocks, which lack any binding mortar, indicates not only a mastery of stonecraft, but also advanced knowledge of engineering and geometry. The polygonal blocks feature stones that are intricately cut to fit together so tightly that not even a blade of grass could slide between them. This method, known as cyclopean masonry, involves the use of enormous granite blocks, each irregularly shaped, yet somehow precisely sculpted to lock into its neighbors. Just observe the remarkable way the blocks fit with each other. It's looking like the interlockings of a puzzle pieces. The extensive use of granite in the construction of the walls is a superb feat. Granite, known for its hardness and durability, is one of the toughest materials available for construction, which makes the architectural achievements of the fort even more remarkable. The largest of the stones are up to 20 feet in length, approximately 6 meters, and assembled into just 5 layers of stone. The granite blocks used in the construction of the fort's walls are dressed with such precision that their smooth surfaces offer no handholds, thwarting any attempts to scale them. The seamless matching of the edges of these massive blocks remains a mystery to modern observers. Behind this visible layer of perfectly aligned granite lies another layer of stone, followed by packed rubble. This design is indicative of a sophisticated understanding of construction that prioritizes both durability and stability. The use of a rubble core, sandwiched between layers of meticulously cut granite, likely contributes to the fort's ability to withstand seismic activities, suggesting that these walls were built with not only immediate defense in mind, but also long-term resilience. The enduring solidity of the walls, capable of withstanding earthquakes for millennia, raises intriguing questions about the age of the fort. Without definitive historical records to pinpoint its exact time of construction, the age of Maliabad Fort is shrouded in mystery. The architectural sophistication evident in the walls implies that they could be much older than commonly documented, possibly predating the medieval period that mainstream historians attribute it to. This megalithic and possibly prehistoric structure is relatively unknown, even to the Indians living in the nearby area. The only reason we found about it was thanks to the Megalithomania channel, hosted by Hugh Newman. It was last year when Hugh Newman visited the site, traveling all the way to India and publishing a remarkable documentary exploring every aspect of the site. One notable discovery made by Hugh was that just like all other prehistoric megalithic stone walls around the world, the ones at Maliabad Fort also have these strange knobs on the surface of the blocks, similar to those found on other prehistoric structures like the massive walls in Peru, Egypt, China, and numerous other places. These similarities across continents hint at a possible interconnected prehistoric world, or perhaps even an advanced global civilization that built these structures everywhere they went. It's quite interesting to observe that around the megalithic walls, there are large portions of scattered ruins and destroyed structures. It makes you wonder how old the site actually is, and what kind of cataclysm destroyed and scattered these massive solid walls. But the gigantic megalithic walls of Maliabad Fort weren't the only impressive feature of this ancient site. Hugh Newman was equally captivated by the remarkable stonework within the nearby Shiva Temple. The Shiva Temple, hosting the sacred bull and the outstanding Shiva Lingam, are two extremely precise and meticulously crafted artifacts made from polished black granite, a material known for its durability and intense hardness. The ability to polish black granite to a mirror-like finish and adorn it to perfection with such intricate details speaks volumes about the advanced technological insight of the temple builders. Hugh Newman's theory is that these artifacts survived for thousands of years, despite the poor condition of the temple itself. The reason he believed that was that in and around the temple, there are many reminiscences of the prehistoric stone blocks with precise machine marks on them, cut so precise they defy any modern historical narrative. The old stone blocks not only had these remarkable machine marks and cuts on them, but they also looked perfectly polished. The finely carved details and the symmetrical shapes on the stones indicated a sophisticated understanding of stonework, which challenged the notion that such structures could only have been created with basic, rudimentary methods and primitive tools. To explore Maliabad Fort and various other prehistoric megastructures further, check out the Megalithomania YouTube channel, or watch Hugh Newman's detailed video via the link in the description below. Considering everything we discussed so far, the question is, if this prehistoric megalithic wall, evidently built using advanced technology, is still standing today, why isn't this remarkable site regarded as definitive evidence of a sophisticated prehistoric civilization that has since vanished? Well, the thing is, the entire site is considered to be from the 13th century due to its documented use during that period. Yet, many believe that since a proper dating hasn't been conducted, parts of the site, precisely the polygonal megalithic walls, could be far, far more ancient, possibly prehistoric. This hypothesis is driven by the precision and sophistication of the stone masonry, which suggests capabilities that surpass those documented for the region during the more recent historical periods. The argument for a much older origin points to the advanced techniques used in shaping and assembling the massive granite blocks. Additionally, the scale of the construction, with walls stretching for kilometers and built with such exactitude, could hint at the presence of a highly organized and technologically advanced society long before any recorded history in the region. Moreover, the 13th century was a time of considerable conflict and consolidation in many parts of the world, including the region around Maliabad. Forts were often built and expanded upon using existing structures as a basis, which might explain why pre-existing walls and foundations could have been incorporated into newer constructions. This layering of historical phases makes it difficult to definitively assert that the entire structure dates back to the 13th century without more concrete archaeological evidence, such as carbon dating or other forms of material analysis, that could directly date the original construction phases of the walls themselves. The Malihabad fort was used under the expansive regime of the Delhi Sultanate, which dominated much of the Indian subcontinent from the 13th to the 16th century. While the massive walls of the fort could indeed predate the Sultanate, there is ample evidence suggesting significant use and possibly enhancements during their rule. Malihabad Fort's primary function under the Delhi Sultanate was military. Positioned strategically, it likely served as a vital outpost on the periphery of the Sultanate's territories, monitoring and securing the borders against invasions, particularly from the Mongols, who were a constant threat during this period. The fort's formidable walls, some of which may have been erected or reconstructed by the Sultanate, were essential for defense, providing a sturdy barrier against attackers. While the original walls of the fort could be much older, the Sultanate might have undertaken significant reconstruction efforts to repair, reinforce, and possibly expand the existing structures to meet contemporary military needs. Beyond its military functions, Malihabad Fort also likely served as an administrative center. As the Delhi Sultanate was known for its structured approach to governance, the fort could have housed offices for local administrators who managed land records, tax collection, and law enforcement. This dual use would make the fort a hub of activity, centralizing control and disseminating the Sultanate's policies throughout the region. Moreover, given its strategic location, the fort might have played a role in trade. Positioned along potentially lucrative trade routes, it could have acted as a checkpoint for goods moving in and out of the Sultanate's territories, collecting duties and taxes, thus contributing to the state treasury. The presence of marketplaces within or near the fort's premises would not be unlikely, where traders and caravans could rest, resupply, and engage in commerce under the protection of the fort's walls. Culturally, the Delhi Sultanate left a significant mark on the regions it controlled, introducing Persian art, architecture, language, and customs. Within the confines of Malihabad Fort, the Sultanate might have constructed mosques and madrasas, promoting Islamic education and religious practices. The existence of the Shiva temple within the fort, however, also suggests a degree of religious tolerance and the integration of local Hindu practices within the predominantly Islamic framework of the Sultanate. In conclusion, the remarkable nature of Malihabad Fort, coupled with the sophisticated engineering evident in its construction, raises compelling questions about its origins, possibly stretching back to a prehistoric era. The seamless integration of massive stone blocks, polished surfaces, and precise architectural alignments seen at Malihabad Fort are characteristic of a highly advanced civilization, potentially predating the documented historical records of the region. While the fort's use during the reign of the Delhi Sultanate in the 13th century is well documented, the architectural and archaeological clues may hint at a much older foundation. The existing structures, possibly built upon or integrated with earlier constructions, could indeed belong to a bygone era that predates conventional historical accounts. Further archaeological exploration and advanced dating techniques may unveil more about the true age of Malihabad Fort. If proven to be prehistoric, the fort could significantly alter our understanding of the region's early history and the technological capabilities of its ancient peoples. It could establish the fort not just as a medieval military stronghold, but as a crucial archaeological link to a lost advanced civilization, whose ingenuity and cultural sophistication have withstood the test of time, encapsulated in the enduring legacy of its monumental architecture. Things get even stranger when we take a look at the massive stone ruins of Vinapuu. These megalithic mortarless structures may actually predate the Moai statues themselves. The main wall is composed of enormous slabs, with each stone interlocking with the next. The blocks fit so well that you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. If you watched our series before, you probably noticed that this structure is not similar but identical to other megalithic stone walls across the world, such as that at Cuzco, Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, and Ollantaytambo. Also those in Egypt, and all across the globe to Japan. Similar to those structures, the wall at Vinapuu is seamlessly assembled using irregularly shaped stones with rounded edges, and includes small stones filling the gaps. In fact, the Moai statues themselves have a significant similarity to these strange figures found on the cliffs of northern Peru, attributed to the Chachapoya culture. Interestingly, these are not statues but actual sarcophagi that represent the so-called cloud people. The similarity with the Moai statues is incredible. The Chachapoyas are a lost culture about which we know very little. What we know is that they predated the Inca by more than 6 centuries, living in the northern highlands of Peru. But let's get back to the stone structures. In 1774, Captain Cook and his British expedition marveled at the precision of the megalithic masonry on Easter Island. Cook even compared these meticulously fitted stone walls to the best constructions in England, expressing particular admiration for a large wall at Hangaroa. Tragically, this wall no longer exists as its stones were repurposed in the construction of a new harbor. Many of the ancient megalithic structures along the cliffs, observed by early explorers like Cook and William J. Thompson in the 1700s and 1800s, have since succumbed to the relentless ocean surf and landslides. By 1923, explorer and author J. McMillan Brown visited Easter Island, noting that the tooling and fitting of the Cyclopean blocks were exactly the same as those in Peru. Decades later, in the 1950s, Norwegian author and explorer Thor Heyerdahl conducted significant archaeological digs on the island. He discovered a megalithic wall of finely hewn and perfectly fitting blocks on the landward side of an ahu, a structure that predated the Middle Period walls visible above ground. Nothing similar was found elsewhere in Polynesia, leading Heyerdahl to assert that the architectural inspiration likely originated from South America, the nearest continent to the east. Despite everything, mainstream historians and archaeologists state that there is absolutely no connection between South America and Easter Island, let alone other parts of the world, such as Egypt and Japan. But how far does the connection of Easter Island to other sites around the world actually goes? The ancient equator theory proposes a fascinating concept that some of the world's greatest cities and man-made wonders, spanning continents and cultures, align along a straight line around the globe, forming an ancient great circle. One of the most striking alignments is the Great Pyramid of Giza, which aligns with Machu Picchu, the Nazca Lines, and Easter Island along a straight line around the Earth's center, with an astonishing margin of error of less than 1/10 of 1 degree of latitude. But the alignment doesn't stop there. Other ancient sites of significance, including Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Petra, the Sumerian city of Ur, and the temples at Angkor Wat, fall within 1 degree of latitude of this line, adding to the mystery and wonder of this global phenomenon. Furthermore, this line passes through areas of the world that are still largely unexplored or unexcavated, such as the Sahara Desert, the Brazilian rainforest, the highlands of New Guinea, and underwater regions of the North Atlantic Ocean, the South Pacific Ocean, and the South China Sea, hinting at even more hidden wonders waiting to be discovered. The alignment of these sites is easily observable on a globe of the Earth with a horizon ring, where lining up any two of these sites on the horizon ring will place all of the sites right on the horizon ring. The breathtaking connection among ancient sites worldwide tells an incredible story often overlooked by millions. Although history books don't mention these alignments, could the placements of these sites be mere coincidence? Or did ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians, Maya, Olmec, and Inca, received guidance from more intelligent and more ancient global civilization? There are many more enigmas on Easter Island, like the presence of magnetic stones scattered across the island's landscape. These magnetic stones, also known as Mahana stones or natives' compasses, are natural rock formations that possess magnetic properties, making them unique geological phenomena. One theory suggests that the Rapa Nui people utilized the magnetic stones for navigation and orientation purposes. One of the most well-known magnetic sites is a large oval rock called Tapito Kura. This rock has a high ethnographic value and was first described by William J. Thompson on an expedition in 1886. He noted that the local inhabitants considered it very significant. Older stories indicated that the rock had come from far off of the island and was brought by the first settlers. Because of its high iron content, this stone warms up more than others and causes the compass to behave strangely. Many visitors put their hands on it to capture their energy, or also, according to the belief of some, increase female fertility. Easter Island remains one of the most enigmatic prehistoric sites on Earth. As researchers continue to unravel the secrets of Easter Island, one thing remains certain. The island's ancient past holds untold treasures and revelations that have the power to reshape our understanding of human history and civilization. According to conventional history, New Zealand is the last major landmass on Earth to be settled by humans. This distant island, located in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, remained uninhabited until the first Polynesians, the Maori, arrived around 1300 AD. However, a remarkable discovery was made on the North Island of New Zealand, one which can completely shatter our established understanding of the region's ancient history. Within the dense vegetation of the Kaimanawa Ranges lies a large megalithic structure known as the Kaimanawa Wall, a formation of stone so precisely fitted together that it has ignited a fervent debate about its origins, challenging our understanding of New Zealand's prehistoric past. The wall itself is characterized by a series of tightly fitted stones which, at first glance, appear to have been placed with precision. The stones are massive, with some estimates suggesting that they weigh several tons each. It was determined that the stones were 330,000 years old and were made of ignimbrite, a volcanic stone made of compressed sand and ash. The nearest outcrop of such stone is 3 miles away or 5 kilometers. This aspect alone has fueled speculation about the level of sophistication required to assemble such a structure, should it have been the work of human hands. Upon closer examination, the arrangement of the stones reveals an almost geometric precision. The stones align in a manner that suggests an intentional pattern, with straight lines and angles that are uncommon in natural rock formations. This peculiar arrangement has led some to propose that the wall could be the remnants of a large megalithic structure, most of which is still unexcavated. In 1996, an investigation into the wall was conducted by archaeologist Barry Brailsford. Brailsford noted that the site was facing precisely due north, which is a pretty remarkable feature that is hardly a coincidence.
There's plenty of strange things about this wall, and one of them is the way it's facing. If you stand with your back to it, you're facing exactly due north. Now, it may be totally insignificant, but there's 360 other points on the compass where it could have been facing.
It's worth noting that many ancient megalithic sites are aligned with the true north, such as the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, Chichen Itza, and many others. Brailsford came to the conclusion that the stone blocks of the site were not natural, and they were precisely cut and stacked. The sensational discoveries of Brailsford led to the publication of an article in the New Zealand Listener called Megalith Mystery. Are giant stones in the Kaimanawa Forest Park evidence of an ancient New Zealand culture? In the article, Brailsford made the following statement. There was no doubt that the stones had been cut. The 4 visible stones in the front wall were a uniform 1.6 meters tall and 1 meter wide. In one place, one could insert his arm into a root-ridden cavity and feel the back face and the front face of the next tier. The faces were uncannily smooth, with no saw or adze marks. The interstices where the blocks join were knife blade thin. Further up the hill, the tops of other stones protruded, suggesting a more extensive structure was buried in the hill. The Waitaha are a people often mentioned in discussions about the early human history of New Zealand, but their exact historical context is somewhat controversial and not widely recognized in mainstream academic circles. According to some accounts, particularly those found in certain non-academic sources, the Waitaha were the first wave of settlers in New Zealand. Barry Brailsford is also one of those historians who believe the Waitaha settled New Zealand long before the Maori, so he initially attributed the structure to them. He even talked to some of the Waitaha elders, asking them about the origin of the structure. He was stunned by what they told him.
It's pre-Maori and it's even pre-Waitaha. See, the people who were here before the Maori people as we know them today, the people of Waitaha, the nation of Waitaha. And I brought the elders here. We came at 4 o'clock in the morning and they came from different parts of the island.
The Waitaha elders?
Yes. They came here in the early morning and they came to this wall and they said, we know these people, but they are way before us.
Curiously, the Maori also stated that this construction was not their doing, as they had never built any megalithic structures. The blocks run for 82 feet, or 25 meters, in a straight line from east to west.
How can you be so sure that this is man-made?
I mean, the idea that the wall is facing north, the blocks are very uniform. Because the wall is starting to collapse to the west, the blocks are pulling apart from each other. There's spaces in the blocks we can get down and behind them. We can see other blocks that are also uniformly cut and squared behind the blocks that we can see about 9 blocks.
See, a geologist I talked to today said, oh yeah, but there are things like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, which are natural phenomena. Those big square blocks, it's possible.
Okay, right. Now, that is actually basalt. That's basalt crystals, and as that kind of volcanic core cools, it crystallizes into these 6, 8-sided crystals. In fact, there's a giant city built in Micronesia, 11 square miles, called Nan Madol. It's built out of...
Researcher and writer Brian Forster, who has visited all of the ancient megalithic sites around the world, was also fascinated by the Kaimanawa Wall, and upon visiting it, he noted that the structure is the only stone outcrop in the entire area, and within a 20-mile radius of the site. He didn't discover any other stones. He also noted that the strangely flat stone blocks were fitted in a way very similar to those he examined in Cusco.
What is interesting is it's the only stone outcrop in this entire area. We drove like 20, 30 kilometers into this ancient rainforest, and it's the only stone at all, and it's has strangely flat surfaces and looks like some of the megalithic work that we find in the area of Cusco in Peru.
Cutting massive stone blocks and fitting them together without mortar is an advanced ancient construction technique that is seen not only in Peru, but in other parts of the world, such as Egypt. This indestructible form of polygonal masonry was convergently developed by cultures with no communication, of which none possessed sufficient tools to quarry, transport, carve, or place these stones. Many believe these cultures actually inherited these sites and that their true builders were part of a global and technologically advanced ancient civilization that perished at some point in time, possibly due to some sort of cataclysm. Going back to the Kaimanawa Wall, it was also noted that there is a consistent bevel on the upper stones, going all the way to the other side of the structure, and the beveled edges on the rocks are identical.
Close examination reveals behind the first lot of blocks are more layers, separated by a perfect gap. The surface of each block is smooth, as if it's been cut. There are other mysteries too.
In other ancient civilizations, they had a stone which you paid respects to when you came into the site. And everyone apparently has this. And, conveniently, here it is.
One of the most indicative discoveries suggesting the structure was man-made was that some of the lower blocks featured precisely cut recesses, allowing them to slide underneath the blocks above, effectively interlocking both sets of blocks. The lower block was probably dislocated after the catastrophic eruption and earthquake of 186 AD, which most likely caused it to shift.
Yesterday, our archaeologists dug down about half a metre below this face here, and this face was still going down, and we used a steel probe to feel underneath, and we were striking rock underneath that. So that gives an indication that at least there's something further down again. And the rocks themselves bend in a sort of a semicircle around, and it may be the shape of some sort of structure.
At the bottom of one part of the structure, there were perfectly smooth rock surfaces with square edges.
We were standing on a piece of rock face which was so smooth we couldn't believe our eyes. It was just like it was poured concrete. And I think that speaks for itself. Square-edged, everything.
Curiously, the same thing was discovered in another section of the site. In one area, the discovery of another floor surface revealed an intriguing characteristic. Upon tapping, the floor emitted a hollow sound, suggesting it might not be a floor at all. Instead, this could indicate the presence of a roof concealing an underlying chamber.
If you, just for the sake of the camera, just get your spade and run the spade across the top of that. Now, that just sounds like you would be running a spade down a concrete slab. And that to me is bloody like concrete. That's just amazing.
In fact, in many areas around the site, probes were able to hit solid rock beneath the earth.
Well, we were probing through an area here. It's obviously going down through the pumice a certain distance, and bang, it hits a perfectly level area where it sends a vibration back up through the rod. It makes a kind of a humming sound as we hit something very solid.
And what does the sound of wood, what does wood sound like?
See, it's like a thud, but it doesn't have the ding. See, and I'm not very deep. See, look at that. See, that's hitting root. If I just go here, hear the difference?
Yep.
Considering the area around the Kaimanawa Wall is relatively flat, some people suggested that the evenly sloped steep mound behind the wall could be hiding an enormous pyramidal structure. On one side of the hill, more stone blocks are visible. These blocks, similar in appearance to those on the wall, display a high degree of symmetry and descend the hill with precise alignment. Remarkably, the angle at which these stones are arranged mirrors the overall incline of the hill itself. And right next to this piece, there's another small piece of exposed stone blocks with the same degree of incline. A short distance away, a third piece has been unearthed, exhibiting the same precise symmetry and alignment as previously observed. Additionally, this piece features the beveled edges seen on the main structure, with the bevel's angle being pretty much identical to other stones. This consistency raises questions about the site's true nature. Could it be something far more complex than a mere stone wall? Might it actually be an ancient pyramid, akin to those discovered in America? It's worth noting that most of the American pyramids were initially indistinguishable from natural landscapes due to being completely enveloped in soil and vegetation. Take, for example, the pyramids at Teotihuacan, which resembled ordinary hills with no stones visible on the surface. Similarly, the Temple Pyramid at Tikal revealed only a small portion of its structure, much like what we observed in New Zealand with the Kaimanawa Wall. In 2019, research was published on the Tureho New Zealand channel, where they showed a remarkable discovery with the use of ground-penetrating radar. As they show in this picture, 2 or 3 meters below the white tape, which is almost 10 feet, the ground-penetrating radar showed an identical pattern as the pattern corresponding to the wall on the surface. This means that below the ground, the structure continued in the same exact pattern of construction with more massive ignimbrite blocks stacked together. Additionally, the video showed some very intriguing rock incisions on the surface of a hard rhyolite rock. All of this information, taken together, suggests that the structure was something much more sophisticated than a mere wall. But what? It's interesting to note that volcanic rocks, especially those high in silica content, are typically found in areas with geological faults and are associated with strong magnetic fields. The presence of water flowing across such stones can generate electric currents, leveraging the silica's properties, similar to its use in computing for information storage and conduction. The site's location on a fault line, known for strong magnetic and telluric energies, led many to theorize that the structure could have served as some sort of energy container, harnessing the Earth's natural forces. But if all of this is true, why hasn't the site been properly excavated? Despite all findings, the government of New Zealand refused the notion that the structure is the work of an advanced ancient civilization that settled in New Zealand long before the Maori. In fact, the government actually forbade any archaeological excavations on the site, as you can see on the sign placed before the structure. The official stance of the authorities is that the site is nothing more than a natural formation, a byproduct of volcanic activity that occurred long ago. But how could they be so sure without conducting a proper excavation? Moreover, why would they forbid others from doing any archaeological work on the site? Actually, they have a very good reason for doing so. They refuse the notion that the site is built by an advanced civilization simply because that is the politically correct thing to do. New Zealand, like many countries, grapples with the challenges of reconciling its colonial past with the rights, traditions, and histories of its indigenous people, in this case, the Maori. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th century marked the beginning of a period of significant change, conflict, and cultural exchange, the effects of which are still felt today. In New Zealand, the indigenous Maori people are organized into various tribes and sub-tribes. The exact number of tribes can vary depending on how one defines and recognizes them, but there are over 100 of them in New Zealand. Each tribe has its own social and political structure, history, and connection to specific regions of the country. A significant process has been underway in New Zealand for several decades to address historical grievances and recognize the rights of Maori tribes over their lands. This process is facilitated through the Waitangi Tribunal, which was established in 1975 to investigate and make recommendations on claims brought by Maori relating to actions or omissions by the Crown that breached the promises made in the Treaty of Waitangi, signed in 1840. Many tribes have engaged in this process and have had settlements reached with the New Zealand government that include formal apologies, financial compensation, and the return of certain lands to tribal control, among other forms of redress. These settlements are specific to each tribe and are based on the unique circumstances of their claims. The process of recognizing land rights and settling historical grievances is ongoing, with many tribes having completed settlements and others still in various stages of negotiation or awaiting resolution. In this context, archaeological discoveries and interpretations of historical sites can become highly sensitive issues. The way history is told, the emphasis on certain narratives over others, and the recognition of cultural sites and artifacts can all have implications for national identity, cultural heritage, and even political and legal rights. The megalithic site at Kaimanawa, given its mysterious nature and the debate over its origins, falls into a category of historical and archaeological interest that is inherently intertwined with these broader issues. Some individuals and groups have suggested that the reluctance to explore certain theories about the site's origins, particularly those that might suggest a pre-Maori human presence in New Zealand, could be influenced by political considerations, as acknowledging such a possibility might undermine the recognized status of Maori as Tangata Wenua, meaning people of the land, and disrupt the established historical narrative of New Zealand. This can cause a significant political and ethnic fracture in the country, and potentially affect land claims and government compensations to the indigenous people. Despite the official dismissal of the Kaimanawa Wall as a mere natural occurrence, the arguments and observations presented by some researchers point to a more complex and possibly intentional origin, suggesting that this structure could be more than just a coincidental formation of nature. But if the New Zealand authorities can so easily dismiss such a controversial site just to keep the status quo, does that mean that there may be other discoveries in New Zealand that can prove an ancient civilization existed here? The notion that New Zealand remained uninhabited until the arrival of the Maori around 900 years ago sounds a bit off, especially when considering the extensive human presence across the Pacific. Mainstream archaeological evidence and Aboriginal mythology suggest Australia has been settled for over 40,000 years, and even remote locations like Easter Island have a rich history of human habitation. Given this backdrop, the idea that the islands of New Zealand remained undiscovered until 900 years ago seems quite peculiar. Adding to the intrigue are stories from Maori folklore, which seem to hint at a pre-existing knowledge of New Zealand. Among these tales, we can find the very reason the tribes came to New Zealand. It was the quest for greenstone, punamu, a highly valued nephrite jade found in the South Island. The lore raises compelling questions. If New Zealand was truly untouched and unknown, how did early Maori or their Polynesian ancestors come to know of the existence and location of its greenstone? This narrative suggests that knowledge of New Zealand and its resources might have existed before its widely recognized discovery and settlement, sparking curiosity and speculation about the island's history and the extent of ancient exploration. But the real question is, was there a civilization living in New Zealand in these ancient times? In 1972, a remarkable discovery atop a hill in Silverdale, New Zealand, piqued the interest of those fascinated by the country's ancient past. Here, buried under layers of humus accumulated over centuries, lay a series of mysterious stone boulders. These boulders had lain undisturbed, hidden under the earth, for potentially a couple of thousand years. What made the find particularly intriguing was the nature and placement of these boulders. Approximately 10 to 12 of them were located at the peak of a clay hill in Silverdale, a setting where coning boulders could not naturally occur due to the geological composition of the area. This raised immediate questions about their origins, as such boulders typically form over millions of years in sea sediments, starting as small shells that become coated with layers of sand and lime. Their presence on a clay hill, far from their natural incubation environment, suggested a deliberate act. Ancient people, at some point in history, had transported these markers to the hilltop as part of an overland alignment system. Another interesting find was made after the relocation of these massive boulders in 1992 due to the construction of a motorway. It was during this process that features were discovered on the boulders, features unmistakably made by human hands. This was a significant revelation. Further investigations revealed that these boulders lay beneath a layer of tephra ash from the 186 AD eruption of Mount Taupo, indicating that the human-made modifications predated this event. This timeline places the alterations to the boulders over 1,000 years before the recognized arrival of the Maori in New Zealand, suggesting a much older, previously unknown chapter of human activity in the region. Among the modifications are beautifully carved bowls, known as Bulan stones in other parts of the world, particularly Ireland, where they are part of ancient blessing and cursing altars. These bowls were meticulously chipped and carved by hand, a process distinct from any mechanical drilling or boring. Another incredible discovery is the Kaingaroa rock carvings, which were tucked away in the vast expanses of the Kaingaroa Forest, one of the largest plantation forests in the world. Many believe these carvings offer a tantalizing glimpse into an ancient past that may predate known Maori settlements. The exact origins of the Kaingaroa rock carvings remain a topic of debate among historians and archaeologists. The detailed craftsmanship evident in the carvings suggests a sophisticated understanding of art and symbolism, raising the possibility that they could be the work of an unknown ancient civilization that inhabited New Zealand's shores long before the arrival of the Maori people. The carvings themselves depict a variety of figures and motifs, some of which bear resemblance to the known iconography of Polynesian cultures, while others seem entirely unique, belonging to no known historical or cultural narrative. Supporting the theory of an unknown ancient civilization are the mysteries surrounding the techniques used to create the carvings. The precision and depth of the carving suggests the use of tools and methods not traditionally associated with the early inhabitants of New Zealand. In the Waipua Forest in Northland, there's another site believed to be part of a pre-Maori civilization, where the ruins of ancient stone structures were found. These ruins had been noted and written about by early Europeans, who wondered about the stone builders who had lived there. The only thing left to the public are these photos taken on the 11th of November 2000. After a 3-year government investigation and excavation, all findings, including stone structures, artifacts, and everything else of note, were sent away to remain hidden under a 75-year restriction, which will last until 2063. At the end of the archaeological excavations, all public access to the area was denied. Visitors wanting to see the stone artifacts were turned away, and access requests by historians and archaeologists were denied, with the reasons given being that the area had been declared tapu and that it was under a Waitangi Treaty claim. From the photos we have, we can see prominent ancient walls emerging distinctly above the layer of humus. Additionally, there are sequences of boundary stones demarcating specific sections. These stones encircle a central pile of stones, which likely was once a beehive house, a type of rudimentary dwelling that has since collapsed into a disorganized heap. This method of constructing stone dome shelters was widely used in megalithic Great Britain and continental Europe, and it appears that New Zealand's pre-Maori stone people adopted the same technique for their homes. Moreover, numerous boulders bearing deep groove marks, likely made using stone tools, can be found throughout the forest. These grooves may have been created during the sharpening and shaping of adzes. Such boulders are plentiful and could possibly serve as some kind of pictorial representation. The significant wear on these carved surfaces suggests they are of considerable antiquity. It's likely that these structures were built thousands of years ago, when the Waipua forest was not yet a forest, but a fertile ground. The Maori themselves state that they don't know who built this ancient stone city. The Waipua Forest Stone City should be a national treasure, if not a worldwide historic place. Yet not only is it being ignored and not protected, but its destruction is actually being encouraged. This leads to the conclusion that the site could be evidence of a prehistoric civilization, which explains why the New Zealand government wants to avoid its existence being acknowledged by the public or the world. There are many other sites all across New Zealand, like the Puketapu Hill and the Waitapu Valley, which have precise stone markings that could serve as an ancient astronomical observatory site, or the Tapapakanga Park, which many feel is another collapsed ancient settlement with beehive-styled stone houses. While the efforts to respect indigenous claims are undeniably crucial, they have, in this instance, led to a paradox where the potential knowledge of New Zealand's ancient past remains ensconced in shadows. This approach not only stifles academic freedom but also deprives the public and the global community of understanding a possibly transformative chapter in human history. This suppressed chapter could contribute significantly to our understanding of human migration patterns, architectural practices, and societal structures in the prehistoric Pacific. The issue at heart is not merely about access to information, but about acknowledging and integrating the full spectrum of New Zealand's heritage into its national identity and history. The anticipation grows for a more inclusive and comprehensive narrative that honors both New Zealand's indigenous cultures and its mysterious ancient predecessors. In the heart of the Andes, shrouded in the mists of time, lies a mystery that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Welcome to Sacsayhuaman, an ancient fortress perched above the former Inca capital of Cusco, a marvel of engineering that defies conventional understanding. This enigmatic structure, with its colossal stones perfectly interlocked without the use of mortar, is so advanced that even conventional archaeologists can't help but question if it was even possible for humans of the era to build with such perfection. These stones are so massive that they dwarf modern machinery, intricately carved and fitted with such precision that not even a blade of grass can pass through their joints. How were these stones transported, shaped, and placed by a civilization that, according to mainstream history, lacked the wheel, iron tools, or even a written language? As we delve into the heart of Sacsayhuaman, we embark on a journey back in time, exploring the ingenuity of a culture that flourished in the rugged landscapes of South America. Join us as we unravel the secrets of this ancient wonder, piecing together the clues left behind by the Inca and their predecessors. Explore the evidence that will enable us to gain insight into whether or not this ancient site was the product of the indigenous Inca or a much earlier, advanced culture that some conventional archaeologists still try to dismiss. This colossal structure, known for its massive, intricately carved stones, stands as a colossal reminder of a bygone era's architectural prowess and has given rise to numerous debates and theories regarding its origins and purpose. Sacsayhuaman is a Quechua name that translates to satisfied falcon. This name is believed to symbolize the falcon's role in guarding the capital of the Inca Empire. The site's strategic location, overlooking Cusco, suggests its importance as a military complex. However, its exact purpose remains a subject of scholarly debate, with theories ranging from a ceremonial center to an astronomical observatory. The most intriguing aspect of Sacsayhuaman is its construction, a feat that seems to defy the technological capabilities of the Inca civilization. The fortress is characterized by its large, irregularly shaped boulders, some weighing as much as 200 tons, fitted together with incredible precision. The absence of mortar in these joints, which are so tight that not even a blade of paper can slide through, has baffled experts for years. This precision, coupled with the sheer size of the stones, raises questions about the methods and tools used in its construction. While it is widely accepted that Sacsayhuaman was built by the Incas, a growing body of evidence suggests that its origins may be even more ancient. Some researchers propose that the site was constructed by a lost civilization that predated the Inca Empire. This theory is fueled by the architectural complexity and sophistication of the site, which seem to surpass the known technological capabilities of the Incas. The Incas, undoubtedly skilled builders, are known for their advanced understanding of stone masonry and architecture. However, the technology required to quarry, transport, and precisely carve and fit such enormous stones seems to be far beyond their known capabilities. This discrepancy has led to various alternative theories, including the involvement of extraterrestrial influences or the existence of a yet-to-be-discovered advanced ancient civilization. Supporting the theory of a pre-Inca civilization are the legends and oral histories passed down through generations. Many local legends speak of a time before the Incas, where a more advanced civilization existed, possessing knowledge and technologies that were lost over time. These stories, while often dismissed as myths, provide an intriguing context that aligns with the mysteries surrounding Sacsayhuaman's construction. The architectural features of Sacsayhuaman are not only impressive in terms of their scale and precision, but also in their design. The complex includes a series of zigzagging walls, believed to represent the teeth of a puma, a sacred animal in Inca mythology. This alignment with symbolic and cosmological elements points to a deep understanding of both engineering and astronomy. The mystery of Sacsayhuaman extends beyond its walls to the numerous tunnels and chambers said to lie beneath. These subterranean passages, some of which are yet to be fully explored, add another layer of intrigue to the site. They are rumored to connect Sacsayhuaman to other Inca sites and even to Cusco itself, although much of this remains speculative. The Inca Empire, known as Tawantinsuyu, was the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Its historical prominence from the 15th to the early 16th century is marked by remarkable achievements in architecture, agriculture, and governance. The Incas were master stonemasons, evident in their iconic structures like Machu Picchu and, of course, Sacsayhuaman. However, the history of Sacsayhuaman possibly predates the Inca civilization, pointing to a deeper, more enigmatic past. Historical accounts of Sacsayhuaman primarily come from Spanish conquistadors and chroniclers. According to these sources, the construction of Sacsayhuaman was ordered by the Inca ruler Pachacuti and continued by subsequent rulers. The Spanish were astounded by its grandeur, with Pedro Sancho, a secretary to the conquistador Francisco Pizarro, noting its massive stones and the precision of their fitting. However, these accounts also mention the existence of structures and foundations that predated the Incas, suggesting that the site had been significant long before Inca rule. The theory of a pre-Inca civilization contributing to Sacsayhuaman's construction is supported by various strands of evidence. The first is the architectural style. The megalithic stones of Sacsayhuaman differ significantly from typical Inca architecture, which usually features smaller, more regularly shaped blocks. This discrepancy suggests that the site may have been built in phases, with a more ancient, sophisticated phase laying the foundation. Archaeological findings in the region also support the existence of earlier cultures. The discovery of the Quilque culture, which inhabited the Cusco region from 900 to 1200 AD before the rise of the Inca, indicates that advanced societies were present in the area. Artifacts and structures attributed to the Quilque have been found near Sacsayhuaman, hinting at their possible involvement in its early construction stages. The construction techniques used in Sacsayhuaman are another point of intrigue. The precision of the stonework, with some stones having up to 12 angles perfectly fitting together, is not seen in other Inca constructions. This level of sophistication suggests that the builders had a profound understanding of stone masonry, engineering, and perhaps even geology. The question arises, did the Incas inherit these techniques from a more advanced predecessor? Radiocarbon dating and other scientific methods have been employed to determine the age of Sacsayhuaman. While these methods have confirmed the presence of the Inca, they have also indicated that parts of the structure could be much older. However, the exact dates and the implications of these findings are still subjects of ongoing research and debate. The astronomical aspect of Sacsayhuaman is another fascinating feature. The Incas were skilled astronomers, and many of their structures align with celestial events. Sacsayhuaman is no exception, with certain aspects of its design aligning with solstices and equinoxes. The most notable of these is the Inti Raymi, or the Festival of the Sun, which is celebrated during the winter solstice. During this time, the sun's rays align perfectly with specific angles and corners of the fortress's walls. This alignment is not just symbolic, but also served as a practical means to mark the changing of seasons, which was crucial for agricultural planning and religious ceremonies. The site's layout, with its expansive open spaces and strategically placed structures, appears to have been designed to offer optimal vantage points for observing celestial events. The large, flat areas may have functioned as observatories, where priests and astronomers could monitor the heavens and interpret the movements of celestial bodies. These observations likely played a vital role in the Incas' calendar, dictating planting and harvesting times, and were integral to their cosmology and religious practices. Moreover, the astronomical alignments at Sacsayhuaman demonstrate a deep connection between the Incas' spiritual beliefs and their empirical observations of the cosmos. The heavens were not just a source of wonder, but a critical aspect of their understanding of the world. The sun, moon, and stars were central figures in Inca mythology and religion, and their movements across the sky were seen as divine manifestations. One of the primary challenges in understanding Sacsayhuaman's construction lies in the sheer size and weight of the stones used. The largest of these boulders weigh over 200 tons, raising significant questions about the methods used for quarrying, transporting, and lifting them into place. The Incas, known for their sophisticated engineering techniques, did not have access to the wheel, nor did they use draft animals capable of moving such massive stones. This logistical conundrum has led some researchers to speculate about the use of advanced yet unknown technologies or methods that have been lost to history. The true extent of their skill is revealed not just in the sheer size of the stones, but in the intricate details and peculiarities that mark each block. These features, ranging from curving walls to unusual scoop marks, bulging faces, and mysterious nubs, provide a fascinating glimpse into the ancient stoneworking techniques and raise intriguing questions about the tools and methods used in their construction. One of the most striking aspects of Sacsayhuaman's architecture is the way some stones curve around corners. This feature is not just a testament to the aesthetic sensibilities of the builders, but also an indication of their advanced understanding of structural integrity. The curving stones add strength to the walls, allowing them to withstand the seismic activity that is common in the Andean region. The ability to shape these massive stones so that they conform perfectly to such complex angles and curves suggests a level of precision and expertise that is nothing short of remarkable. The unusual scoop marks found on many of the stones at Sacsayhuaman are another feature that has puzzled researchers and visitors alike. These marks indicate a specific tool or technique used in the quarrying process, but what exactly this tool was or how it was used remains a mystery. The scoop marks are consistent and precise, suggesting that the builders had not only advanced tools, but also a standardized method of using them. This level of uniformity and precision in tool use is a clear indicator of the sophisticated craftsmanship and technological capabilities of the society that built Sacsayhuaman. Another intriguing aspect of the stonework at Sacsayhuaman is the bulging faces of some of the blocks. Unlike the flat, smooth surfaces one might expect, these stones have protruding sections that add a three-dimensional quality to the walls. This feature could have been purely decorative, or it might have served a practical purpose, such as enhancing the stability of the structure or facilitating the interlocking of the stones. The bulging faces of the stones add to the complexity of the construction process, as they would have required additional shaping and fitting, further showcasing the builder's skill. Perhaps one of the most mysterious features of Sacsayhuaman stonework is the presence of small, regular protrusions or nubs on some of the stones. These nubs are not unique to Sacsayhuaman and can be found at other megalithic sites around the world, suggesting a shared technique or purpose among ancient stone builders. The function of these nubs is still debated, with theories ranging from them being used for lifting or positioning the stones during construction to serving some sort of astronomical or ceremonial purpose. The fact that these nubs appear in different cultures and locations adds an intriguing dimension to the mystery, hinting at a possible exchange of knowledge or a common architectural heritage among ancient civilizations. The craftsmanship of Sacsayhuaman is not just evident in the large-scale layout and construction of the fortress, but also in these small, intricate details. Each feature, whether it is a curve, a scoop mark, a bulging face, or a mysterious nub, tells a story of a highly skilled society with a deep understanding of stone masonry and architecture. These features challenge our understanding of ancient technologies and push us to reconsider the capabilities of pre-Columbian civilizations. Adding to the mystery are the legends and myths that surround Sacsayhuaman. Local oral traditions and legends speak of the fortress being constructed by a race of giants or by the intervention of gods. These stories, while often viewed as mythical, resonate with the sense of awe that the site inspires and reflect the deep cultural and spiritual significance it holds for the local population. From an archaeological and scientific perspective, there have been numerous attempts to explain the construction techniques used at Sacsayhuaman. Some theories suggest that the builders used a combination of manpower, ropes, louvers, and wooden rollers to move and lift the stones. However, these theories are often inconsistent with the size and precision of the site. Others propose that the stones were softened, perhaps by some sort of advanced technology that softened or even melted the stone, allowing them to be molded and fitted with precision. Nevertheless, none of these theories have been conclusively proven, and the exact methods used remain a subject of debate and research. Everything at Sacsayhuaman screams architectural perfection, but just how could this have been completed without the use of iron and steel? How were the enormous blocks moved? Is it possible that what we're looking at is evidence that an advanced civilization once thrived in this area of Peru? The exploration of Sacsayhuaman's origins inevitably leads to the investigation of the evidence pointing towards a pre-Inca civilization. This line of inquiry not only challenges our understanding of the timeline of Andean cultures, but also opens up a fascinating window into the ancient history of South America. The historical records and oral traditions surrounding Sacsayhuaman offer a rich information that, when woven together with physical evidence, presents a fascinating narrative about its origins. Inca legends and myths, many of which were meticulously recorded by Spanish chroniclers during the colonial period, frequently allude to a time preceding their civilization, marked by extraordinary architectural achievements. These stories, once relegated to the realm of mere folklore, are now increasingly acknowledged as potential reservoirs of historical truth, offering glimpses into a past that might have been influenced by a more advanced, yet now forgotten, civilization. Central to these legends is the figure of Viracocha, a deity revered as the creator of all things. According to Inca lore, Viracocha was responsible for the creation of the sun, the moon, the stars, and all living beings. Intriguingly, Viracocha was not only a god of creation, but also a teacher of skills and crafts. The Inca believed that Viracocha and his companions, often referred to as the Viracochas, were the ones who imparted crucial knowledge to the people, including advanced architectural techniques. This narrative finds a compelling connection with Sacsayhuaman. The tale suggests that Sacsayhuaman was constructed not by the Inca themselves, but by these supernatural Viracochas. This legend aligns with the theory that the site predates the Inca civilization and was built by a more ancient culture possessing profound knowledge and skills. The Inca, upon arriving in the region, are said to have encountered remnants of this once great civilization, including some of its last inhabitants. These people, believed to be the descendants of the Viracochas, reportedly shared their knowledge with the Inca, teaching them advanced construction techniques. One of the most intriguing aspects of this legend is the mention of a specific acid derived from a plant, which was used to mold rocks into desired shapes. This detail is particularly fascinating as it suggests a level of technological sophistication that goes beyond the conventional understanding of pre-Columbian stone masonry. The idea that the ancient builders had the means to soften or shape stone using a plant-based solution opens up a plethora of questions about their understanding of chemistry and geology. While no concrete evidence of this acid has been found to date, the legend persists, fueling speculation and research into ancient Andean technologies. The notion that the Inca learned their building techniques from a more ancient civilization is not without precedent in historical narratives. Many cultures have legends of receiving knowledge from godlike beings or advanced ancestors. These stories often explain the sudden leaps in technological or cultural development. In the case of Sacsayhuaman, the legend of the Viracochas could be interpreted as a representation of the transmission of skills and knowledge from an older, advanced culture to the Inca. Furthermore, the reverence with which the Inca regarded Sacsayhuaman and other ancient sites supports the idea that they viewed these structures as part of a sacred and venerable heritage. The meticulousness with which they maintained and integrated these sites into their own culture and cosmology suggests a deep respect for the achievements of their predecessors. Due to the many anomalies of Sacsayhuaman and its unique walls, researchers and archaeologists have tried to explain the construction techniques logically. This has led researchers to suggest that the stones are a type of geopolymer, or in simplistic terms, a form of early cement that was poured into molds. A Russian group of geophysicists carried out some work at the site in 2012. The group from Geo and Asociados SRL worked closely with Peru's Ministry of Culture to identify a few problems occurring at the site. The Russian team eventually took various samples from the rocks at Sacsayhuaman. While their investigation was centered on better understanding the level of erosion on the blocks, they stumbled upon a few anomalies that further alluded to the idea of some kind of geopolymer being used at the site. When they published their results, they revealed that the limestone used at Sacsayhuaman had an unusual composition, slightly different from that found in the nearby quarry. While the rock at the quarry was precisely what they'd expect to see, the stone from the megalithic walls at Sacsayhuaman had anomalies, which led them to speculate further about the possibility of a geopolymer being used. The scientists working on the project hypothesized that limestone blocks were sourced from the quarry. Yet, they may have been crushed into powder through the use of extensive bonfires, which would have weakened the stone before being made into a limestone paste from which blocks were molded. But if we are to believe this theory, then it should also be noted that the manufacturing of such blocks would have been on an industrial scale due to the sheer volume of the walls and structures at the site. The amount of mixture needed is almost incomprehensible to those who have worked on the theory. Even with the hydraulic paste or geopolymer theory, a lot of it still has yet to make sense. If working with cement, why make such large blocks? Were the blocks molded and then moved, or were they built upon one another? And finally, if such blocks were the geopolymer or made from a cement-like paste, how did they become so strong that it has withstood enormous earthquakes over the last 1,000 years? Yet Spanish churches built long after have crumbled into dust on several occasions. It appears there is more than meets the eye when it comes to Sacsayhuaman, and in fact, there's still evidence to suggest that the rocks themselves were quarried and not shaped. The unique properties of the limestone blocks that constitute the massive walls of Sacsayhuaman are a subject of great interest and scientific study. These properties are not commonly found in limestone and suggest a fascinating geological history linked to the site's proximity to volcanic activity. The nearby Rodadero Formation, an ancient geological site, provides critical clues to this mystery. The Rodadero Formation is known for its historical volcanic activity, characterized by a significant flow of lava from its center. This geological phenomenon is crucial in understanding the unique characteristics of the limestone used in Sacsayhuaman. Limestone, a sedimentary rock, typically forms in marine environments and is primarily composed of calcium carbonate. However, under certain conditions, such as exposure to intense heat, limestone can undergo a process known as recrystallization. The limestone blocks in the walls of Sacsayhuaman exhibit these distinctive properties, suggesting that they might have undergone such a natural recrystallization process. This geological transformation would not only explain the durability and longevity of these stones, but also their ability to withstand the seismic activity that is common in the Andean region. The precise fitting of the stones, a hallmark of Sacsayhuaman's construction, might have been facilitated by the altered texture and consistency of the recrystallized limestone. But what kind of technology did the ancients possess to be able to produce such intense heat equivalent to volcanic activity? How did they recrystallize the limestone, endowing it with the strength and durability that have allowed this magnificent structure to stand the test of time? While the theories of how such a unique site could have been built in such a distant past continue to pile up, it appears many have begun to accept the idea that Sacsayhuaman may have been built by an ancient forgotten civilization. The idea of an advanced civilization once thriving in the area is backed up by similar sites in the region that also display equally impressive megalithic masonry. What happened to this advanced culture may never be solved, yet their achievements may stand for thousands of years to come. What do you think about Sacsayhuaman? Could the Inca have built it? Or did they inherit it from a much older civilization that vanished at some distant point in the past? And could the Andean legends of the Viracocha really lead us to the origins of the site? Let us know what you think in the comments section. In the secluded depths of the Sharia Mountains in southern Siberia, a secret has lain hidden, undisturbed for thousands of years. It was in this remote wilderness, far from the prying eyes of civilization, that a discovery was made, one that would challenge the very bedrock of our understanding of human history. It was in 2013 when a team of 19 researchers led by Georgy Sidorov embarked on an expedition to explore the area located on Gornaya Shoria, a mountain rising 3,600 feet above sea level. Situated in a secluded region of Russia, this area was once inaccessible, guarded by checkpoints during the Soviet era. The expedition was initiated based on intriguing reports from the area about the presence of numerous unusual megalithic objects in this remote location. Upon arriving at the specified location, the research team was shocked at what they stumbled upon. It appeared as a gigantic supermegalith, so mysterious that it defied the chronicles of human history. The Gornaya Shoria megaliths, as they came to be known, consisted of immense stone blocks, appearing to be granite, characterized by flat surfaces and right angles. What was even more shocking was the estimated weight of the stones, which was more than 3,000 tons. This would make the Gornaya Shoria megaliths the largest megalithic stones ever discovered in human history. The systematic arrangement of the granite rocks hinted at intentional design, a purposeful architectural effort that went beyond mere natural formation. They were meticulously stacked one atop the other, reaching a height of approximately 140 feet. The sheer size and scale of these stones immediately posed a baffling question. How were such enormous blocks carved, transported, and assembled in such a remote and challenging landscape? According to Sidorov's notes, the structures were around 100,000 years old, a timeline that pushed back the boundaries of known human architectural endeavors by tens of thousands of years. This revelation was not just surprising, it was revolutionary. It suggested the presence of a civilization with advanced knowledge and capabilities long before what was traditionally accepted in the annals of human history. Georgy Sidorov and his team were astonished by the colossal size of the structure. The magnitude of the discovery of a monument like this was incredible, one that had remained hidden for eons, a silent witness to the passage of time and possibly to the rise and fall of an unknown civilization. The insights and observations written by Sidorov would prove crucial in unraveling the mysteries of this enigmatic site. The sight of the huge granite blocks, meticulously stacked in a wall of polygonal masonry, suggested a level of architectural sophistication that was previously unimagined in that era. Sidorov noted the construction's resemblance to other ancient megalithic structures such as Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, yet unique in its own right. The comparison was not just in terms of the sheer size, but also in the mystery of the purpose and functionality of the site. The dimensions of the structure as recorded by Sidorov were staggering. The wall, as he referred to it, was around 700 feet in length. The individual stones were each about 65 feet in length and between 16 and 23 feet in height. These figures were not just numbers. They represented a monumental human effort, a feat that seemed nearly impossible given the presumed technological limitations of the time. Sidorov and his team considered various theories regarding the origin of the structure. One prevailing hypothesis was that it was the product of an ancient civilization, one that possessed technology and knowledge far beyond what was previously thought possible. This theory raised numerous questions about the capabilities of ancient peoples and the potential existence of a sophisticated civilization that had somehow been lost to history. Adding to the enigma, Sidorov reported that there were circular holes on some of the stones, seemingly perfect in roundness. Even more astonishing were the indications of melting observed on the stones. It appeared as though in certain areas the stones had been melted, hollowed out, or reshaped. Sidorov attributed these meltings to some sort of ancient rock fusion that was implemented on the wall. He also wrote of the possibility of a powerful thermonuclear explosion or a similar destructive force, as there were many megalithic rocks that were scattered around the site, seemingly blown away by a powerful force. All of this raised even more questions about the purpose of the structure and the fate of its builders. The complexity of the site was further highlighted by Sidorov's description of additional structures in the vicinity. He spoke of a strange cyclopean construction of vertically set boulders standing on a giant foundation. Moreover, Sidorov recounted how during their expedition they encountered unexplainable phenomena. The compasses of the entire group behaved erratically, deviating inexplicably from the megaliths. This phenomenon led to speculation about a negative geomagnetic field in the area, possibly a residual effect of some sort of ancient energy field. This phenomenon of geomagnetic anomalies is not unique only to Gornaya Sharia, as it has been observed at other ancient sites around the world. It often leads to discussions about the advanced understanding of the Earth's magnetic fields by ancient civilizations and their ability to manipulate or utilize these forces in ways that are not yet understood by modern science. Unfortunately, the worsening weather conditions limited the ability of Sidorov and his expedition to explore further, yet the data collected provided invaluable insights into the layout and scale of the ruins. As the team departed, the sense of mystery only deepened. The immense size and unexplained origins of the Gornaya Sharia megaliths represented a puzzle that was far from being solved. Yet, the question arises, if these structures were indeed built by humans and not a natural formation, then how could an advanced civilization thrive in such an inhospitable location, a place known for its harsh climate and extremely severe winters? What would motivate them to settle in such a challenging environment? Wouldn't it have been simpler for them to migrate southward to warmer territories and establish their settlements there? During the peak of the last ice age, around 20,000 years ago, Siberia, along with much of the northern hemisphere, experienced a profound climatic shift. Despite the colder climate and the spread of ice sheets, however, the conditions in Siberia were relatively more favorable than those in Europe and North America. In contrast to the extensive glaciation that enveloped North America and Northern Europe, Siberia was not completely covered by ice sheets. The region was predominantly characterized by the Mammoth Steppe, an expansive biome marked by cold, dry conditions, yet abundant in grasses and herbaceous plants. This unique ecosystem supported a diverse array of megafauna, such as woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and other large herbivores, as well as the predators that hunted them. This rich environment provided ample resources for the support of human populations, offering both food and materials essential for survival. In fact, archaeological discoveries such as tools and artifacts have already proven that there were human populations living in Siberia during the Ice Age. The most fascinating of these discoveries was when Russian scientists uncovered a site corresponding to the last Ice Age where ancient hunters lived. The site was filled with stone tools, ivory weapons, and the butchered bones of mammoths, bisons, bears, lions, and hares, all animals that would have been available to hunters during that Ice Age period. Using a dating technique that measures the ratios of carbon, The researchers determined the artifacts were deposited at the site about 30,000 years before the present. That would be about twice as old as Monteverde in Chile, the most ancient human life known in the American continents. Donald Grayson, a paleoanthropologist at the University of Washington in Seattle, said the discovery is very significant because it is so much earlier than any other proven evidence of people living in the frigid lands of Siberia. In contrast, much of northern Europe was engulfed by thick ice sheets, making vast areas uninhabitable. The ice severely limited human mobility and resource availability. Human settlements in Europe were primarily concentrated in the southern regions, which, though free of ice, still endured a cold climate. These areas served as a refuge for humans and animals, but the resources available were scant compared to the abundant mammoth steppe of Siberia. In this context, if the Siberian megaliths were indeed erected during the Ice Age, it suggests that their builders were part of a society that not only adapted to, but also prospered in the cold climate. The relative wealth of resources in the mammoth steppe would have supported larger human populations, enabling them to engage in significant construction projects. The discovery of the Gornaya Sharia megaliths has also reignited interest in alternative historical theories. Some researchers have speculated about the existence of a pre-flood civilization, a sophisticated society that existed before a cataclysmic event wiped out much of humanity's early history. This theory aligns with global myths and legends, which often speak of advanced civilizations that vanished under mysterious circumstances. Intriguingly, the site of Gornaya Sharia, despite its potential historical and archaeological significance, has not been the subject of any follow-up research and archaeological efforts. This lack of continued investigation into such a potentially revealing site raises several questions and adds a layer of mystery to the already enigmatic stones. The official stance of the Russian Federation regarding these megalithic structures is that they are merely natural formations. Yet without a comprehensive and thorough archaeological examination, how can we be sure that the massive and unusually structured stones are purely the product of natural geological processes? Numerous observers are skeptical that the stones are a product of nature, citing their precise angles and impeccable arrangement as evidence. They point out that the site is very similar to other megalithic sites around the world that were undoubtedly man-made. The possibility that these megaliths are remnants of a lost civilization or a forgotten chapter in human history cannot be entirely dismissed without a thorough investigation. What could a proper excavation reveal about the origins and purpose of these stones? Could they possibly be linked to ancient human activity, or are they indeed just an unusual but natural geological formation? Moreover, the broader implications of such a discovery, if it were proven to be made by humans, are significant. It could potentially rewrite parts of our history, offering new insights into the capabilities and spread of ancient civilizations. It could challenge our understanding of the technological and architectural skills of our ancestors and provide a new perspective on the ancient world. Do you believe the site is a natural formation or the product of a long-lost advanced ancient civilization? Tell us your theories in the comments below. And if you're interested in more strange discoveries in Siberia, watch our video about Arkayim, a lost city discovered in the wilderness of Russia that is surrounded by mysteries. See you in the next video.